I've been doing sports my whole life. I started at 3 with swimming, then added acrobatics to that at 5, on quite high level, really going for a career with it. Then on the side was also running. At 10, I had a spine injury that had to do not only with sports but also with music that I started also at 5. It was a bit of just too much. But I recovered from that. Then I went into 400-meter running and skiing, basketball at some point. And all of that was really present in my life, basically until I started properly studying conducting. Since in parallel I was doing music all the time. I was learning piano, flute, and eventually went to music university to study conducting. Then during the conducting studies that appeared to be quite stressful and demanding also physically, the thing that was keeping me sane and healthy, I think, was dance trainings, hip-hop and dancehall in Vienna, and football matches that we were doing in our within the music university. And eventually I managed to link these both passions in a postgraduate course of music physiology, which dealt basically with well-being, health, proper maintenance of mind and body of musicians. And it's been really important for me because during the course of my studies, I think it was the 4th year, I ended up getting myself a tennis boxer's and golfer's elbow in my right arm without doing any of these activities. And it came straight from conducting and playing the piano with incredible amount of tensions in shoulders and in whole arms, simply because I didn't know how to release that tension, because standing in front of a group of 80 people for the first time is a stressful situation, and knowing how to control your body and how to help yourself in a moment like this is really important. And nobody had told me about it at that point. So from the studies that I ended up doing, I got all of these tools to prepare myself, to release tension afterwards, to do workouts and warming ups at the beginning and stretching after performances. And it's something that has become a routine for me at the moment. I have, of course, my normal sports routine that I've always been doing, but I adapted it so that it addresses, of course, arms and back strength, because I'm standing a lot as a conductor. It's definitely something that I think would be really important to be present for all musicians, because ultimately our careers, our jobs are very similar to those of sports people. It's high pressure, it's a lot of physical strength needed to play a long concerto. We sit or stand in positions that are not necessarily natural physiologically. So we should actually have means to then bring our bodies to the optimal again afterwards, between prepared. I were to just choose 3 important things to do. Absolutely most important thing to do is to learn again how to breathe, because this is something that we, being musicians, artists and sensitive people, often in stressful situations, this is something that we forget quite easily. When you get excited, you get tense, you start breathing really, really short, and you don't really get to release the air ever again. So going back to basics, basically breathing out, taking the time to clear your mind, breathe in again, and then start. It's something really important. Second thing is just moving, doing sports, remembering that our bodies were made to move and not to sit for hours exclusively. Also building up core strength, which is probably the safest thing to do, as long as your core is strong and can support your limbs, everything will be easier. And maybe the third thing specifically for musicians, which we forget very often about, is taking care of our ears and of our hearing. That if we sit for 8 hours in a loud rehearsal or in a practice room with our loud instrument, afterwards maybe we will choose silence and let our ears rest. I think sports, by doing sports from the very beginning, I had the awareness of my body. I knew, could feel what my limbs were doing at all times, and it's really important part of conducting. Obviously, we work with movement, and with our movement we want to influence other people and influence music. I think that was a very on the basic physical level that has helped me a lot. But also I think that if I didn't have the previous experience in sports and a bit of a career in sports, I don't think that I would end up conducting and going into a job that is still kind of male dominated, because as long as I was doing sports, I did train a lot with boys my age, and I competed with them as well, because sports are purely based on merit. Like, time is time. If you're faster than your colleague, then you're just faster, and it's great. And nobody will say, hey, you cannot do it because you're a girl, you cannot be faster than us. And I knew that if I try hard enough, I can basically just do anything I want. And the fact that men are doing something was never, and women are not, was never an issue in sports. So I think that has helped me a lot to deal with the pressures of, how is it to be a female conductor. It wasn't that present in my mind, I think, thanks to those previous experiences in sport. Another thing that I find now very helpful in rehearsing and working with orchestras, actually, is the experiences that I had when training in bigger groups. And this feeling at the end of the training that even though it was hard and it's required a lot of persistence and effort, you get these endorphins and happiness. And this is what I'm striving to achieve also in rehearsals, that it is fun and like the dynamics of the group are positive and supportive. Another really big similarity between music and sports, I think, is how the lifestyle of a sports person, or the demands that are in front of a sports person, are very similar to the ones that stand in front of a musician, because we both prepare for a long time, and then comes the moment when we have to deliver and be on our 100%. So there's planning before, there's a lot of stress, a lot of pressure in the moment, a lot of focus, both for sports, and for music. And something that probably if someone didn't really have a professional career in music, they may not be aware of how incredibly tiring, just purely physically on a muscular level, making music can be. Like at the end of a long symphony, just a couple of months ago, I remember I could barely lift my arms anymore, and the muscles were extremely sore the next day. So just all the techniques that sports people are used to, the fact that they have to warm up, they have to stretch, that they get a massage, that the training has to be built up day after day, it cannot be sudden. All these things, I think, would be wonderful if they were as much ingrained in the education of musicians and in the awareness of professional musicians. And the same applies to mental health and mental preparation, which in sports is really, really well advanced, with a lot of research, a lot of help, a lot of methods to center yourself and visualize and know what will happen. And with music, we sort of still go by emotion, inspiration, and pure motivation to do it as best as we can. So I think this scientific aspect could definitely, we could, in music world, we could definitely profit from the experience in sports.